On health, we discussed the benefits of breastfeeding for both baby and mom. Plus, we discussed the disturbing issue of human trafficking right here in our community and the role of heart-to-heart services in addressing this issue. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by AtlantiCare, a member of Geisinger. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.
Health disparities in the Hispanic community is a major concern for us here at Latino Motion and ALMA, an AtlantiCare Employee Resource Group. That is why we are partnering to present this health segment. Tu salud es importante para nosotros.
Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. Various studies point to the many benefits for children who were breastfed, but do you know that there are also important benefits for the moms? Joining me is Dr. Diane Timms and Christina Guzman, who are here to discuss all about this. And ladies, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thank you for having us.
And we're talking about this because August happens to be National Breastfeeding Awareness Month, correct?
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about why it's so important for moms to breastfeed their children.
So there's many health benefits to children who are breastfed, including increased immunity against infections, and it's also just the right food at the right time. Breast milk is amazing that way. But there's also benefits to the mother. So moms who breastfeed are less likely to have breast cancer and ovarian cancer. They also have less bleeding after their birth. And it's a great way to get back into shape after having your baby because you burn about 500 calories a day just from producing breast milk.
And I think that maybe there's a misconception sometimes that it's for the baby and has the opposite effect on the mom, but there's real benefits for moms who breastfed.
Absolutely, for both moms and babies.
And I know, Christine, you're with ALMA, and it's a resource group out of AtlantiCare that's also working with this initiative. Tell me, what are some of the things you're doing?
Yes, ALMA, probably since 2015, we've connected with the Center for Childbirth. And during some of our activities, especially next month for Hispanic Heritage Month, we'll do a visit to the OB floor and we'll present an insulated thermal bag to store the breast milk. So we're able to visit each of the moms and just have a little bit of conversation and promote the initiative of breastfeeding that the hospital is promoting.
And obviously, it's a great thing, but there is a little bit of disparity with Latina moms. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So traditionally, Latina moms have been less likely to initiate and continue breastfeeding. So one of the things that we've really tried to do to make it more accessible at AtlantiCare is that we have a Spanish-speaking lactation consultant who can really work with this community to make sure that any questions that they have can be addressed.
Now, what if someone's having difficulty breastfeeding? What should they do?
So there's a number of different types of problems people can have with breastfeeding. So what we like to say is that breastfeeding should never, ever be painful. So if for some reason it's uncomfortable or it hurts, then that would be a reason to make a phone call to your doctor or to the lactation consultant who can really sit down and make sure that the baby is appropriately positioned and that there aren't other things that we can do to help.
What else should the mothers be thinking about when they're breastfeeding? Let's say diet and exercise. Are those things that they should be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. So with breastfeeding, there are certain medications that can be taken and some that can't. So if you're taking any medications, you'd want to make sure to speak to your lactation consultant or your physician about it. Most medications are very safe in breastfeeding, so typically that's not a reason why someone can't, but just something to be aware of. As far as diet, really there's no restrictions on diet. Again, it burns a lot of calories. Do want to be careful with alcohol in breastfeeding because some of that does get into the breast milk. No recreational drugs should be taken by women who are breastfeeding. And certainly, if any problems come up or there's any questions about exposures, for example, if you need to have a CAT scan done and you need contrast or anything that's a little bit different, that's a great time, again, to engage with a lactation consultant or with the doctor to get advice.
And Christina, what kind of resources are available for Latina moms who are looking for help? And you mentioned that lactation consultant. Do we have a bilingual one?
I believe so at the hospital, yes. And then I know when our team goes in to visit, our education materials are in English and Spanish. When we do visit as well, we have many of our ALMA members that do speak Spanish, so we're able to, get a little bit of conversation going and let the moms know how important this is and nutritional it is for the children.
So what are the barriers to breastfeeding?
So I think the first barrier is people who are afraid that their baby is not going to get enough nutrition. And it is a trust issue in your own body to know that you're going to make what your baby needs without being able to measure how much your baby gets. Some people feel very just uncomfortable, especially when they're a first-time mom and they don't know what they're capable of. So I think that's the first barrier. I think also some people perceive it as being less convenient when in fact it's more convenient because you're ready to nurse your baby wherever you are. You don't have to carry bottles and formula and all those kinds of things with you. I think those are the things that we commonly hear. Also, I think some of it depends on whether your mother or your friends breastfed because people get different messages from their friends and family or from the community. And if you've been told that it's going to hurt or it's not going to work, then you're less likely to stick with it.
Well, you mentioned economics, which is important. Obviously, there is cost, but also the fact that the moms sometimes have to go to work and you have to use the pump, et cetera. What kind of assistance does AtlantiCare or other agencies offer those moms?
So I think there's more and more publicity being given to these issues of moms returning to work and needing to breastfeed, and there are guidelines and recommendations from the World Health Organization about moms being allowed to have a clean, comfortable space to go to in their workplace to breastfeed, about being allowed to take short breaks from work every few hours in order to be able to pump. Also, insurance companies now cover pumps that work really, really well and can do the job, pretty quickly so that you're not off of whatever you need to be doing for work for a prolonged period.
So in short, very important for both baby and mom, and there shouldn't be barriers for breastfeeding. Ladies, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. Human trafficking is the second largest criminal industry in the United States. To shed more light on this disturbing issue is Denise Poole. She is the founder and CEO of Heart to Heart Services. And Ms. Poole, this is so disturbing. And how big is this issue right here within our community?
Well, it is unfortunate and sad to report that out of all 50 states, New Jersey lands number 13 with having the most calls and cases reported for human trafficking.
How about here in our local South Jersey area?
So it is hard to distinguish exactly what counties are larger than others. However, it is reported that Cumberland County, unfortunately, may be on the rise, as well as and it's very hard to say because I don't want to post it on certain counties because you have trafficking going from one end of the state to the other, because our location, New Jersey, period, is a prime area in terms of the buses, the traffic, the highways, the airports, and the bus stations. So from one end to the next, the whole state of New Jersey is in this report.
So let's kind of frame this. What is human trafficking for those who haven't been exposed to this issue, and many of us haven't? What is human trafficking in this sense here?
So it's a very good question. Thank you for asking. Human trafficking is actually the harboring, recruiting, transporting of one individual for the sole purpose of selling them for commercial sex or using them for labor, for work, domestic work, servitude, and slavery. It is known as a form of slavery.
Who's at risk? And our minorities, such as African Americans and Latinos, are they more at risk?
So everyone is at risk. However, what the report has stated is that 68% of those that are trafficked are African American, and right under that are the Latinos community.
Is this the younger individuals?
Yeah, well, adolescents, preteens, they are definitely the most vulnerable because they're children, and that's what they're supposed to be, vulnerable. But anyone who's at a deficit is vulnerable.
So what do we tell parents in terms of this risk? And this is something that's not discussed at the dinner table. It's certainly something that's not regularly discussed in any form. What information or what advice do you give to parents? What should they be looking out for?
So some of the signs are obviously the changes in behavior, the changes in mood, whether your student or your child is a good student and now they go to a poor student. They're spending time away from the homes on the weekends. They are, and then the parents really need to know where their children are. So if they're at track, then be at track. If they're at work, show up at work, because the trafficker uses those opportunities to traffic them during that very period of time. Often children have to leave out during the middle of the night when the parents are asleep, and so they're trafficked that time, or during the latchkey period while they are, between the time the parents get home and the children get out of school, they're out of school.
So what's the difference between that and someone that's grabbed and snatched and placed in another city to basically serve us in servitude? What's the difference between what you're describing now and that type of human trafficking?
So there is no difference. It is just the type of trafficking. Okay. So it is estimated that 3% are actually kidnapped. Oftentimes the trafficker is acquainted with the youth. 62% are actually acquainted with those who traffic them. And then there's 3% that's actually thought of as taken. Now, oftentimes what happens, if the trafficker feels as though the youth is going to run, then they may sell them to someone else in another state.
Wow, this is incredible. What kind of help is available for victims?
So for the victims, we need more help. Victims need a place to go. When they need to, or if they can exit out, if they can get away, where are they going? And that's why heart-to-heart services exist. We need a home for these children and adults to come to, a safe home, a safe place. And so one of the things that we do offer is a drop-in center where women can come in off the street for a period of rest, and then they go back out. But it's with the hopes of pre-contemplating getting out of the life. The state of New Jersey is doing a great job, but it's just not enough, as all the other states. We don't have enough housing. We don't have enough jobs. We don't have enough programs. And so those are the things that Heart to Heart Services does try to work and fight for, advocate for. We do have programming for victims as well as survivors. But of course, we don't have enough.
Let's talk about where your services are located.
So we do have an outpatient office in Berlin. We do in-home therapy because oftentimes the children are groomed right in the homes. That's where the grooming begins. Grooming is a process of what the traffickers do to gain that relationship with the children. So when children are at home and they're being abused or they're they feel as though they can't stay at home, is dysfunction, they want to leave. But that dysfunction has already set them up to look for someone to take care of them. That's part of the grooming process. So we need to do better at home. That's where it has to start. And so our organization, we do education.
We do want to get into the breadth and depth of everything you do, but we want to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue to discuss the great work of heart-to-heart services in curbing human trafficking right here in our community. And Diane, we talked about the big crisis that we have here locally with human trafficking. Before we get into expanding more about the services, let's talk about the recruitment and the social media, what role that plays.
Unfortunately, it plays a very large role. We know that that's the communication style of our youth today, and so do the traffickers. So when children are on social media, there are certain apps that they really should stay away from, and we provide that information when we go out to do our prevention pieces. However, children are upset, and that is their way of communicating, and so they will go online and they will talk about their feelings, and they're upset and wish they weren't here anymore in this house. And so the traffickers are there posing as youth, and they involve them in relationship and act as if they're their friends, and they'll go out to meet them, and then when they're there, it's not a child, it is an adult. And so they will viciously attack the child, threaten them with coercion and force, and that they can't tell, or something will happen to their family. And so that begins the process of the trafficking.
Wow. Incredible. Let's talk about some of the work you're doing. And one of the issues is with human traffickers, they stamp individuals.
So they may influence the youth to participate in drugs, alcohol, or just act as if they're their boyfriend. So get my name on you, get my logo on you, my tat on you. And so the girls, and oftentimes it's boys as well, but they will become branded or tattooed with the trafficker's initials or name. And so, for instance, there's one, his name, he called himself God. So his girl's God's diva, God's princess, God. And so these signs or symbols or tats were on each and every girl that he had in his quote unquote stable, which is his housing for the girls, or his group. And so what we do is when these girls, they come out of the life, they are able to get out through whatever means, we have a tattoo artist right in Cumberland County who works with us to recover their branding and tattoo, which means that that was an indication that they belong to that person, that now they belong to themselves. And it helps with the healing and the recovery process.
Let's talk about some of the services. I know you have workshops that you provide. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, so because this is such an unfamiliar territory, this human trafficking, which really has been around for a very long time, and so now it's coming to surface. It's what was known as pimping, but because it's coming to surface now, we're hearing more and more about it. We know how to provide awareness, education, what the signs are that you should look for. We go into the schools. We provide information to the teachers, because they are first line defense, because they see these children.
At what grade level do you start having those conversations?
In middle school. The average age of entry into human trafficking is 12 years old. Wow. The youngest age that has been detected in New Jersey is 8 years old. So that middle age, that middle school, is when they need to be taught, as well as the teachers, as well as providers, anyone who works in the capacity of children. We can go out, we provide awareness and education so that they will know what to look for and how to handle these signs and symptoms that they are seeing.
So obviously schools are important. You also go out to other organizations to talk about this, and also the some of the service providers.
Yes, and the community at large, anyone who will open up their doors, especially the emergency rooms, because these survivors or these victims at that point, they are not able to go to doctors, those who have been taken into New Jersey, let's say from another state. The only time they will see a doctor is in an emergency visit, so they will go to the emergency room. So emergency rooms need to know what to look for. And so even I worked in an environment where with youth in out-of-home placement. And at that time, I wasn't familiar with human trafficking, but there was a youth who came in and she always had urinary tract infections. That's a sign. They go to police stations and they're afraid to speak up. There's a case of one child who told her mother she was having a problem, and the mom took her to the doctor. Doctor didn't say anything, and that was it. That girl had been trafficked for the next 5 years. Her just saying to mom, I need to go to the doctors, was her way of saying there's a problem.
So as the founder and CEO, you obviously have a passion around this issue. Why is it so passionate for you?
One of the major reasons, I believe, is I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And with that came a lifestyle of very low self-esteem. And I remember one day saying, no one wants me. I couldn't even get into the service. And at that very moment, I could have been trafficked. All someone needed to do was come alongside of me and say, I can help you, I love you, right? And to be honest, that's the first time I got married. Was because I didn't think anybody else wanted me, and he asked, and I said yes. So I understand how, a woman can get into that place of just being so vulnerable, and that's what these traffickers go after. They go after our children. So I've always had a heart for children as a result of being a 5-year-old child.
Well put, and certainly very happy that you have this passion to help so many other people. Thank you for sharing this information with our audience, and thank you for joining us at home once again here on Latino Motion.
Choose to get your feet wet, to learn more about protecting our environment.
Choose to read minds, to understand the human brain.
Choose to get your hands dirty, to create a masterpiece.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by AtlantiCare, a member of Geisinger; Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world; and South Jersey Gas.